it's hard to express to you the many levels of communication God is having between Balak and Balaam. It's really hard to express, and I want to. Not even sure I know all of the, or understand all of the levels. I've defined them by reading some other books by other people. I'm a big believer in the ISIS papers for community. This is all about community, by the way. You don't make the mistake of thinking Balak and Balaam do not believe in God. If Balak didn't believe in God, he would have attacked wrongly and been destroyed Jacob. Because keep in mind, this is history. The fact that Balaam is having the discussion with them as Jacob means he understands the history. Your wealth is in your history and your path, your correct path. It's what God has called you to do. You can have my grandchildren, my brothers and sisters in Kenya, my brothers and sisters in Ghana. So glad you guys are doing what you're doing. Thank you for letting me know, being accountable, and whomever else this helps. We're on a journey. From Genesis to Revelation, I do not know how long it's going to take. I said to you years ago that we're going to go on a path, and it was after I left the car business and made a promise not to go back. And I made that promise to my daughter because I was in really bad physical health, hypertension health, blood pressure 200 and something over 1 something, bad. I was stressed because I was doing something for money, because I liked my 6-figure income. And I was at a church at the time, and the pastor was feeling sad for me, and I wanted to prove to him, it was the motives were just bad all the way around. I wanted to prove to him I can go make money. Making money is not the problem. Doing what God calls you to do is a challenge. Yeah, this is not for the weak of heart. I'm doing everything I can to fulfill my promise to God to be a teacher of spiritual truths. Means I have gone through a lot, and I'm a little bit tired of going through all that I'm going through. Pay attention, because this all fits in, because Balaam understood the history of Jacob. He'll mention this in Numbers chapter 23, which means he studied history. Balaam was making money in Canaan. Balaam was a son of Lot, not a direct son, but he was in the bloodline of Lot. Zippor, his father, was in the bloodline of Lot, which is Abraham's nephew. He doesn't call him his nephew there in the Bible, but he was his brother's son. Abraham's brother died early, very early in life. Hebron. Anyway, I didn't mean to go there. But my point is, because I want you to understand the depths of truth, and so maybe I go too far sometimes, and I apologize there. So with that mindset, with understanding history, Balaam, who Balak has called, who is a prince the ruler of Moab. Moab is Lot. And he's asking Balaam, he says, listen, these people are taking over the place. I need you to curse them and bless me. And Balaam has said to him, can't do that. And the reason why I can't do that is because it's not true. Balaam even said to him, you can offer me a house full of silver. And anyway, let's read it, because I want you to understand what you're dealing with. And I also want you to understand how to take the blinders off, because God is always speaking. I did not understand this when I was coming up, and I'm not sure I understand it now, but I'm going to give it a shot. Because I think I do, but every time I think I do, we'll see. We shall see. Numbers chapter 22. If you've been around the Bible for a while, you know the story of the man who was riding on the donkey and his leg got crushed up against the wall because, he got into a conversation with the donkey. That's this prophet Balaam. Balaam. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly. Balaam. And this was after Balak had challenged him and said, listen, I need your help. And he said, all right, but, I don't think so. I want to read this to you. Verse 31. After the donkey had, pushed him in, he said, in verse 31, the Lord opened the... Keep in mind, these stories are for you to seek out God for yourself. Don't believe what I'm saying, because I'm gonna translate it to 2024 language, but study to show yourself approved. The Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. This is the part I want you to pay attention to. I think it's 32. Yeah, 32. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thy ass 3 times? Because he went off on his ass. His ass started talking to him. The donkey he was riding. And he was talking back to the donkey. Sometimes us creatives, we don't see the obvious. Wherefore hast thou smitten thy ass these 3 times? He said, behold, I went out to withstand thee, because your way is perverse before me. This is something unusual for you. You usually pay attention. That's the way I hear it. Verse 33, and the ass saw me and turned from me these 3 times, and unless she had turned from me, surely now also I have slain thee and saved her life, saved her alive. And Balaam, and now watch what he says. And Balaam said unto the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stood in the way against me. Now, I don't know if you caught that from the perspective that I caught it. That's why I'm going to explain it from my perspective. But this is an experienced prophet who had been making money in Canaan doing these prophetic things that he knows how to do. This also is a fairly learned guy that you'll find out in Numbers chapter 23, because we're going to go over there as well. And he said, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stood in the way against me. Now, therefore, if it displeased thee, I will get me back again. No, don't go back. Keep going. but listen to my voice. Verse 35, and the angel of the Lord said unto Balaam, go with the men, but only the word that I shall speak unto thee, thou shalt speak. So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. Now, I don't know if you caught that. He caught him along the way doing what he didn't want him to do, and then he said, no, keep going. Since you're on your way, just speak the words that I'm going to speak. But the big thing was for me is when he said in 34, I have sinned, for I knew not that thou stood in the way against me. I'm not sure whether to believe him, because he was very experienced, or he was just blinded, because the donkey tried to stop him 3 times, and he got mad at the thing that tried to stop him. Hear what I'm saying? Is something trying to stop you from being destroyed, and you're mad at the thing? That's trying to stop you? That has been true to you all these years. Are you listening for his voice? Are you ignoring him? Are your eyes open to see him? Let's go back. Verse 31. And the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way. First of all, the 5 senses are involved on the spiritual level as well. You know, the eyes have a particular meaning. Your hearing has a particular meaning. Your seeing has a particular meaning. Your touch, in the spirit world, particular meaning. I know I'm missing one. Bear with me. I'm just trying to make a point. So you experience these things on a natural level, but there's also a spiritual level of your smell, your sight, your touch, your what have you. So what's important is when he said, this is no small thing, opened the eyes of Balaam to see, so that he could see the angel of the Lord, means his eyes were closed. What closed his eyes? Because he saw before very well. Why were his eyes closed? His eyes were closed, in my opinion. Study to show yourself approved. Back in Numbers chapter 22, when he met with Balak, his family, and Balak was making him all kinds of promises to promote him. Not that he was going for it, but internally, I think maybe he was. It clouded up his vision. He already knew what the right answers were. He understood history. Let me do this though before we go there. Let me share just a few places that talks about the eyes, and because I want to mix in a little New Testament with you. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 8. Interesting how that happens to me. I don't know. Why Ephesians 1 and 8? Sometimes that happens to me. wherein he hath abound towards us in all wisdom and prudence. That's not it. Oh, Ephesians 1:18. That's what it was. But before we get to 1:18, let's do it like this. Ephesians 1, if you're following along. Ephesians 1, 13. In whom ye also, speaking to the Ephesians, after that ye heard the word of truth, the good news, the gospel of your salvation, your deliverance, your healing, in whom also after ye believed, ye were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise, in other words, the inward witness. You now walk with God, which is the earnest of our inheritance unto the redemption of the purchased possession unto the praise of his glory. He wants you to, God wanted you to have him on the inside all along. You were bought with a price by the blood of the Lamb and the word of his testament. By the blood of the Lamb, you were bought with a price. And you accepted that. You accepted the Holy Spirit on the inside of you. Wherefore I also, after I heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus and love unto all the saints. Catch that. Faith in the Lord Jesus and love unto all the saints. Israel is the saints. Cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers, that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may, let me read that again, the way it's supposed to be read. That the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling. That is the purpose, Ephesians 1:18, of the eyes of your understanding, that you may know the hope of his calling for you. If your eyes are not open, you don't know the hope of your calling. So your eyes have to be. The hope of my calling is I am primarily a teacher of spiritual truths. I've wanted it as long as God placed it in my heart when I started studying this Bible a long time ago, in relative to my years. And even before, probably. This is so powerful to me, because this is not about you trying to figure out who you are. This is understanding the hope of your calling. And the eyes of your understanding have to be open. When your eyes are open, you can also hear his voice. You can feel his presence. You can smell his offerings. You can touch the hem of his garment. You can heal. You can be healed. It's not so simple as to just doing what makes you money, like he was doing in Canaan. It's not like he wasn't making money. Acts chapter 9, verse 18. And immediately there fell from his eyes as it had been scales, and he received sight forthwith and arose and was baptized. Once your eyes are open, oh my God, things just take on new clarity. New clarity. And that's where we all want to be. We want to be in a place of clarity. Proverbs chapter 4, 25. 4:25. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thy eyelids look straight before thee. There's no reason to go to the left side, to the right side. Just going straight into the hope of your calling is a lifetime's work. It's a lifetime's work. It's not something that even a family member like Balak is to Balaam. It's not something, it's not about the silver, the house full of silver. And all the different promises. When you walk true to your calling, then you can say something like this in Numbers chapter 23. Verse 12, and he said, and he answered. We actually go to verse 11 to find out what he said. And Balak said unto Balaam, what hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed altogether. And he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord hath put in my mouth? This is Balak. Because, again, in Christianity, if you're my age, we speak on these people as negatives. No, God speaks to everyone. Verse 12, and he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord hath put in my mouth? And Balak said unto him, come, I pray thee, with me unto another place. So he took him to another place. And he brought him into the field of Zophim, Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars and offered a bullock and ram on every altar. And then Balaam went back to God. In verse 16, the Lord met with Balaam and put a word in his mouth. Go again unto Balak. He's teaching him something. You can spend all the money you want. You can build as many altars as you like. Still waiting on God to give him the word that I can go take it. Balak is. These are the devil worshippers that we've been taught about in Christianity. These people aren't devil worshippers. Everybody wants God's blessing. Everybody wants God's blessing. Verse 18. And he took up his parable and said, rise up, Balak, and hear. Did you hear that? Rise up, Balak, and hear. Hearken unto me, thou son of Zippor. God, not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. We know that one in Christianity. Hath he said, and shall he not do? But I marked some that I want you to pay attention to in particular as we close this out. In verse 21, he says, he hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob. He knew, listen, Jacob, before he was Israel. The promise is to the father. I said something to you a video or two ago where I said, these are not about the promises to them. The promise that you're fulfilling today is the promise I'm fulfilling today is my grandmother, who named me Paul. I'm trying to figure out what my new name is going to be. I'm asking God. I don't know. The promise is to the fathers. Know your history. It takes generations to create. I am a product of my history. I'm not held back from my history, but I recognize the work of my mother, her sisters, and her brothers most of which are still just elders, but very near to being ancestors. My grandmother. Verse 22. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath as it were the strength of a unicorn. Verse 23. Surely no enchantment against Jacob. You can't. It's impossible. The promise was already made. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob actually is the promise. Carried forth from Noah. Where the promise started. My God. From Adam. Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion and lift, in verse 24, and lift up himself as a young lion, and he shall not lie down until he eat the prey and drink the blood of the slain. Verse 26, but Balaam answered and said unto Balak, told not I thee, saying, all that the Lord speaks, that I must do. What's the conclusion? The conclusion is you are only called to do as God has told you to do, not for money, not for power, but for purpose. The wealth that you're bringing forth is the part that you're playing that God asked you to play. This is not your plan. God gives you the desires of your heart, which means to me, God implants in you what his desires are for you to accomplish. God gives you the desires of your heart. But then people want to translate that into cars and houses, and that's cool. Go get you some cars and houses. Absolutely. Just don't sell your soul to do it. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. CashApp $MrPaulDozier. We are on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. I do not know how long it's going to take. But if these videos are helpful to you, they will be helpful to some other people. Please like and share them on whatever platform you hear it. This is a podcast. It's on YouTube, Facebook, X, not that many, LinkedIn. Share it. If it's a blessing to you, it's going to be a blessing to someone else. But thank you so much for taking the journey with us.